In the past 2 years, by the lacking of funding and many other factors that are influencing this sector. The answer, of course, comes from the quotation of President Ramaphosa, who, when he was presenting the South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan in April of 2020, he described how the COVID pandemic presents an opportunity to reset the South African economy. He said it is an opportunity to build a new, inclusive economy that benefits all South Africans. That is so true. We might see the adverse effect of what COVID had done, but since COVID, more than a year ago, we're slowly recovering, and it gives us this opportunity to reset the new economy, especially in our sector, which is not transformed. From the President's statement, we have no choice but to develop our own industry-specific scorecard that serves our own need. In exploring whether we should develop our own scorecard or use the generic one, we move from the premise that the events technical production sector is very unique. We tend to have smaller companies with a very low headcount of highly skilled and experienced people. We employ freelancers as our needs dictate, and our revenues tend to fluctuate enormously because of our activities that are project-based. The generic scorecard is, of course, a rudimentary tool that we can use, designed to be used across multiple industries where the structure of the organization is stable and fundamentally different to that we find in the events, technical, and production sector. What we're now proposing is to develop this scorecard that allows us to implement the transformation agenda within our industry that is so specific to our needs. We need this to be developed with your input, and it needs to be the input that would make this transformation possible. The proposed scorecard covers a variety of event formats, and those include sport, entertainment, business events as well. It also includes exhibitions, incentive tours, film, television, and audiovisual productions. It includes a range of activities that can be hosted at a stadium, at any venue, or at an audiovisual production facility. It even includes events hosted in a virtual online space. It is a very broad spectrum of activities that cuts across several other industry sectors, and we are aware that in its breadth, there may be companies who are focused and confused about where they fall. Does this event fall under the tourism sector code? Does a commercial producer fall under the marketing, advertising, and communication sector code? Does a company hosting a virtual event fall under the ICT sector? Of course, there are many overlapping events that are taking space in that sector. Our guidelines, of course, respond is very simple. This charter applies to any organization that generates more than 50% of its annual turnover from the events, technical production services sector. We've had, of course, engagements with the Tourism Charter Council, and we seem to be in agreement in that regard. If you are an event venue that offers accommodation to event delegates, of course you can argue that you fall under the Tourism Council. But if you generate more than 50% of your revenue from the events industry, this is the scorecard that you are, of course, obliged to use. The same applies to audiovisual production. Oh, I'm jammed here. Doesn't move. I want to go to this next slide. There you are. Thank you. Technology can be a challenge at times. Sorry for that, colleagues. In August of 2021, the National Film and Video Foundation released their 2021 Economic Assessment Study that looked at the state of transformation in the audiovisual sector. They concluded that overall, there are very low levels of inclusion and slow transformation in the audiovisual industry. This is a particular challenge at higher skills level within the industry where there's very limited transformation. They also recognize that the audiovisual sector has made very steady progress on the transformation front in terms of employment and management aspects, but there's been limited progress on the ownership aspect. The report specifically highlights the lack of self-sufficient and sustainable black-owned film enterprises. It also describes how, beyond the public sector, black filmmakers or producers often cannot raise or access funding required in order to build a sustainable business. Similar research, of course, exists in the events industry, where we find high barriers to entry for venues and technical production companies because of the high capital costs that are required for you to put for that. There are almost no barriers to entry for event organizers who don't require a high capital investment, but events, it's a high-risk business, and despite the low barrier to entry, and perhaps even because of it, there's a high failure rate of startup businesses and slow transformation in the industry. As with the audiovisual sector, transformation at higher skills level within our sector has been painfully slow. Black-owned technical production companies find it difficult to raise capital or access private funding. And there's been limited opportunity for training and skills development, particularly business skills required for business ownership or management. In order to address these issues that I've highlighted here, we've taken a long look at the core elements of the BBBEE scorecard and have radically increased the transformation targets for both ownership, management, control, and skills development. As you can see, your generic scorecard, and you can see from the screen, we've highlighted the three. The generic scorecard, when it came into existence, those were the three areas on which the targets were based. And when we came in, we added a few other targets that I'll take you through at a later stage. We've, of course, also increased the points needed to achieve the various BEE levels. So while there are more points available in each category, the targets are equally increased. I'm just going to share with you a few examples of how the proposed scorecard deviates from the generic one, and it is a good place to start is with the ownership targets. In this instance, you can see the target for exercisable voting rights in an entity held by black people is increased from 25% plus one voting share to 40%. Our objective here is to incentivize organizations to increase black participation in industry boards. But the reward for achievement of the higher targets is increased from 4 weighting points to 10 weighting points. You will see as I take you through this scorecard, or these elements in particular, if you look at the extreme right, there's a column of explanation. We did not thumbsuck and just decide because it's nice to increase these targets and increase them. There was a lot of thought and a motivation that drove us to go that route. We've also increased the targets for the economic interest in which black people are entitled from 25% in the generic scorecard to 40% in our scorecard, with a corresponding increase in the weighting points that accrue. We've further proposed a significant increase in the targets related to the economic interests of black persons in shared ownership schemes and cooperatives, raising the targets from 4% to a drastic 20% so that we can encourage black people to embrace empowerment structures and to encourage companies to sell shares to their employees. We are looking for a greater equity participation from staff or even surrounding communities where these entities operate. One of the big concerns that we've identified in the research carried out by both NFVF and ourselves revolved around the failure of black employees to progress into middle management position. And so we've proposed a target to address this bottleneck and create an opportunity for junior employees to progress in their careers. This target doesn't exist in the generic scorecard, and it is introduced here deliberately in response to the specific challenges that exist in our sector. We've also doubled the targets for the supply and enterprise development so that we encourage companies not only to create employment opportunities for their own staff, but also to create black-owned supply chain that can fit into their own businesses. We've also increased the target allocated to training and skills development, specifically because we want to encourage on-the-job training, mentorship and work-integrated learning, as well as more formal education that leads to the award of the qualification or a professional designation in that sector. And of course, we've increased the targets for socio-economic development because we believe that the events industry in particular has the potential to offer employment opportunities and feed into a much broader event community. We've often seen the development of micro-enterprises that can contribute to events with the production of local craft products. While we have published our draft BBBEE scorecard, it is certainly a work in progress, colleagues. This will be amended based on your feedback and your input. This is your opportunity to collaborate with us in the development of the industry-specific scorecard that promotes the BBBEE agenda and without throttling the economic recovery of our sector. We recognize that our sector has been devastated by the restrictions imposed in the past upon us over especially the last 2 years, and we are aware that many companies in the event sector have scaled down substantially to the point that many now exist only as a name on a letterhead or on the outside of an empty building. In this industry, more than 30% of our AV technical crew are now working in the Middle East, in Qatar in particular, the UAE and Saudi Arabia. The technical crew in the Middle East are, of course, working on very interesting and groundbreaking projects that look great on a CV. They are earning hard currency, and they are earning in a tax-free environment. We have no idea whether these people will come back to South Africa, but we are aware that if we don't create commercial opportunities in our own country, not only will the people who've already moved away stay away, the brain drain will continue, and our ability to host world-class events will simply not exist. Our sector is facing real economic challenges, colleagues, and we desperately need to focus on reviving it so that it can create the sustainable future. At the same time, we need to, one, address the historic inequalities and create economic opportunities for blacks. Two, we need to promote training and skills development as a tool for economic recovery. Three, we also need to accelerate transformation at a higher skills level by creating structured career paths. Four, we should encourage cooperation and collaboration between established, emerging, black-owned businesses. Five, we must also create opportunities for black-owned businesses to access funding for their capital expenditure and their own business development. This we are doing not only because it's a tick box exercise in which we pay the lip service to it, but it's the principle of public participation that we require from you. This scorecard will impact on every one of us in our sector. So whether you are a supporter of the BBBEE or not is completely irrelevant. You can either participate in the development of this scorecard that serves our interest, or you can live with the consequences of a clumsy generic scorecard that already exists and is imposed on us without any consideration for the structure and the culture of the events, technical and production sector. The choice is yours. Thank you, colleagues. I will now open this for you to open to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairperson. I'm going to just stand here. Oh, yeah, I'll stand here. Much better. Awesome. So, colleagues, that was quite a mouthful. We don't expect you to grasp everything now. It's new information. It's a big document. It's a very big but deliberate document. So I usually do summaries, but I think the chairperson does this job so well that we don't need the summary. But high level, I just want to high level the things that you need to take cognizant of in that document are the 5 levels. That is your ownership, that is management control, that's skills development, that's supplier development, supplier and enterprise development, and then the last one is socio-economic development. I usually say empowerment. Thank you for that. And then high level also, what are the changes from the generic scorecard? What is this sector code going to do for us that has not been done by the generic scorecard? So when we say generic, we're talking about anyone who is in business who is not classified in any sector code. So it could be you are a law firm, because now they develop their sector code. You could be, property has its own, they just gazetted their own now. So if you were not classified, you would just use a generic scorecard. So what this one is going to do for us, I mean, the voting rights, if we were to vote in this sitting today, do you know that we will be disadvantaged as women in this voting? Do you know that we will also have disadvantaged people living with disabilities because they are not represented here? So this code is trying to resolve that for us. So it's saying we're going to give you black people better or more rights into the voting. And if you do have that, and if you are doing that as part of your ownership element, then we give you more points, then you score higher, then you can do business with government. I know shares, shares and equity and schemes, too technical, the trusts. How often do we throw around that she's a trust child, do we know what it means for us? I made a note here to say, think about your parents. Have you ever heard your mother say, I got a promotion? How have you ever? So I bring it home. So our mothers have been working for years and years. They've been clerks for years. There's no movement. And this, therefore, in this industry will help us move people, because it will be a requirement in business. And then qualifications. We know people that are recognized are the people that are going to your university, UCT, University of Cape Town. Oh, my mind is not working. And film schools that you can think of. I think I was listening to Mbata, who is the one, Unishakal Ilembe, Nomzamo. And she says, I failed. And then after failing, then I moved and went to the arts. And I'm like, did you fail to go to the arts, or was art really your passion and your space? But how many people are telling the stories of going to the universities and really getting funding for that? This is another opportunity for business to really comply and take people to universities and give them mentorship. Mentorship will be on the job, so that you can learn the technicalities. And then we can later RPL is a recognition of prior learning. Then we say we take what you have done as your experience and put it into the qualifications. So this will give us that opportunity as black people. And then the last one, and then the supplier. I think the supplier is a big one. I think we know it, we throw it around. Hey, there's a tender, the Department of Sports has a tender, let's go submit. And then we run around looking for affidavits for BBBEE certificates. We will get more opportunities, because it will be a requirement that the big businesses do businesses with us to qualify for those tenders. So it's an opportunity. And then there is that piece where we need to give them loans. So the small businesses are getting loans. I think the chairperson has indicated that. Then it's an opportunity for us as well to get more revenue. And then there's now an added thing to say, if we have been using you, and then we take you, bring you into a supplier list, it's a bonus point, benefits us too. And then lastly, I think this socio-economic development because it has only 5 points, and then I know for 5 points is the generic, and 5 points is also the financial sector codes. And then we have 10 points. Because it has the lowest points out of all the other 4 elements, it is underplayed, but it has great value, because it says if a big business that qualifies as a big business supports black people, and you can prove that 75% of the people that are going to benefit, the beneficiaries of that funding, of that money, are black people, then you qualify. So those are, Motsepe is donating 10 million to Banyana, whatever that they're donating. They're going to claim for it. It's going to their books, but we PR that as if it's just, hey, and I think I'm going to use a loosely language that gets maliag, but it's actually something that's going to be recorded, because what are the facilities? Who are the people that are in the squad? 75% black? Can we prove it? We know, we see it. So those are the simple things that are happening in our everyday lives, but we don't put them into the document because we think the document is so complicated. So when you go and read, think of how practical it could be for you as a business owner. And what are the benefits for you? What are the benefits for you? And what you can do for the next generation that's going to come. Enough about that. So I'm happy to take questions. We'll take 3 questions, and the panel will answer them. And then we take another session of 3 questions. If you raise your hand, I think the gentleman there is going to help me with the roaming mic. You can sit where you are, it's fine. You can just ask a question where you are. Please let us know who you are so that we can address you rightfully. If I was in vendor, I was going to say, no, just say I'm Lucia, and then I'm going to do this because I struggle with the language. But we're in the safe space. So you can go right ahead. I've got one gentleman there. I've got another one here. And then we need one more? Okay. Okay, going once, going twice. I'll take this gentleman and then I'll come to you with the next round of questions. So comfortable for you to start, say, and then we're going to take the questions, 3 questions, and give the panel an opportunity to respond.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I clear my throat? I like the part where she said, going once, going twice, so I think I like that kind of energy. So my name is Sakil Mkwaz from Waterstrom. I come from Video Art Gallery. I deal with videos, I do so many things, and I wish my business could go big. So my main point is with you, sir, Chairperson. I don't know whether it's a question or it's a comment, but I feel like I have to say something because it just triggered my head in my memory. So, thank you very much for the presentation of ETPSI, the scorecard. We see numbers. I love the numbers that when there is you and the score points, the numbers changes to better. So there are valid points you shared, sir. I took one, the tax issue. There's a lot I wrote, but the tax issue. It was out of the presentation, but you were talking about it, about other brothers who went to some other countries and they did big things and they are doing big, but when it comes, will they ever come back here? So the question is here. We are struggling as the young entrepreneurs because of tax. They tax you all the way, they send you messages, they tell you that you owe us this and that because you couldn't report or you couldn't submit your, I don't know what's the right word for it, but they usually say that. So that thing is a problem. We end up paying without even making that kind of money or reaching that kind of targeted money, and then that drowns our businesses. And with ETPSI, the scorecard, I am truly interested in training, the promotion of training and the structured career path, also to establish the emerging businesses, especially with the public participation. So when we promote training, I would love to see ETPSI being introduced even in schools, having some people to teach even the young ones about this one, having a team that will promote more training even at schools. We train people, you train people, you give people the best things, or to give people the good part, to give people the best, or the best information you are giving us, but for the kids as well to know such information. Because now it just ends here. we talk about technology and stuff, but we don't have money to take it to school. So what if we get help, then that we take the film and everything to schools, we preach it, we talk about it, we learn, we start from school. As much as they start learning a computer from school, but we start to teach them about cameras at school before they go. So that's to promote training, structured career path. We need that. So I'm sorry to be tall while I'm short. So I thank you for the opportunity. Somebody help me pass. And can we please have water, sir?
Which mechanism that I can use rather than going back go government? Because is advise for me, resources now expand because there's a guy oral model in spread Bambiza on hippie sound. This guy, I started working with him, I think 2012, we had an event in 2012, no, who's this lady? DJ Zinc. Currently, because ML foot as a supplier with big sound, Moki tent. I went to him again. But with some I'm still asking the same thing. I'm advise with low corner, because lang-based corner. Lama resources now give me saying waste. Do I have to now to market myself back to even, or I have to come again and pinning parameters rural? But if I'm being ignored, the right people like Meleba invest, because to reach is only 1.8 million when you charge 3,000, you will need some advice to reach there.
Thank you. We've got a gentleman there.
Hi, my name is Veli Gifty Jacobs. I'm from Balfour, September 2014. My questions is, I have two questions, which is based on similar actually to Ukai. Since library is a public place for community to utilize or in use, I, Veli Gifty Jacobs, am I allowed to use a library to teach a computer lesson to help youth, since I have qualification on office, administrator, and computer? That's my first question. The second question is, the first question refers to a certified learning program based on the program that we were searching. Second question is, am I allowed to open my small learning program in the community, not for business, but for youth to gain experience? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I speak? You want to talk?
Yeah. We're taking 3 questions now, and then we're going to take 3 more questions. Thank you.
Thanks, moderator. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know. I have a different approach. Firstly, I've noticed that the moderator, since she started talking, she's been very much zooming into the issue of disadvantage of women. So, gents, I want you to understand we're in for it for this month. You know, we just have to be patient, listen to the last condition, right? So, but if I'll pay the end of the August, we'll start our in September. Yeah. Secondly, I just wanted to break the silence. People are so quiet. You know, there are a number of things that the chairperson presented earlier on, but I'm getting a sense that maybe, which I was whispering to my colleague here, maybe that presentation is a bit complicated or too hectic for people to understand. I would have thought that when he made the last introduction of our colleague Ufred, who started the initiative, one would get to know what was the problem. So I just feel, moderator, we needed to simplify it, so that even the questions that you have are able to speak exactly to what you were presenting and why you were here. But on the other hand, as you also had because we are part of the sector. We understand the dynamics and the politics. So the questions and the frustrations that you are presenting are not new. They are not foreign. You find this to all provinces because of the lack of access between creatives and the authorities. That's why the chairperson said when the session is done, we're still available to address majority of these questions that you are presenting, which are not necessarily directed at the presentation. However, because we're here, we'll be able to accommodate each other. And thirdly, I'm not too sure if, do we have anybody here who owns a production and technical company? Now, they should be the ones who understand exactly what we're here about. Because when this initiative started, if one is making it simple, you would remember when the government of the day came to the picture in '94, there were a number of bigger events, especially on dates of national importance. Your Freedom Day, your June 16, your Women Day, and so forth. You'll find these big rallies, governments having them. But what people didn't know, who actually put those events together? Where did that stage come from? You know, the sound system, the lighting, the rigging, and all those kind of stuff. And the majority of people that were owning those entities were white companies. Now, the gentleman that Chairperson raised, Ufredi, he's the president of South African Road Association, which is an institution that teaches young black kids production and technical stuff. And sadly so, the majority of practical work those boys do, they get them overseas more than here, which is a very sad situation, including some of the promoters who don't even give them an opportunity. You know, but it's a discussion for another day. So when he wrote to Parliament to say this can't be correct, that's when this committee was instituted to try and readdress that challenge. So that is basically why we're here. But having said so, we're not saying because big companies or white companies who are manipulating the space must be kicked away. We're saying, no, let's balance the scale, you know. You can still work, but you can still work with that gentleman as an ML. You can do this with this and that. So that is what we expect a discussion here to centralize around this issue. Yeah. So that is the purpose of the presentation. So I thought if we raise that, people can readjust their questions so that it's a bit clear. We are not saying don't talk about other things. We're here, and we're staying in a nice hotel anyway. So we can sit here for the whole day with you. So I thought that was important, moderator, to allow leaders of the creative space to express themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, fine. Yes, I'd like to address this young gentleman here who talked about the BEE investments and going back to government. I think the really important thing is what we're doing here, which is the government who are saying how big companies and businesses are going to contribute back to the events that you have. So it's not government who's actually putting that money in, it's the businesses. And I think that that's really important because what we do in terms of that, we do events and that, and it's the companies who come and say, listen, we've got to spend 4% of our net profit after tax on an event or something like that. So it's really important that it's the businesses that you need to get the money from. This is just the document that says they have to spend it. And when they're looking to spend their 4% net profit after tax, they've got 100,000 Rand, and you know, okay, let me give them a proposal which says we're going to do this event, this is where we're going to spend the money, it's not just going to all go into your pocket. That's the real joy of it. And I think that quite often, because this is the document that makes it happen, we forget that the people who are going to spend the money are the businesses. So the more businesses you're associated with, the more places that you know that they've got the profits. They are the ones who are going to spend it. And you've just got to make your project so enticing that they think, wow, I want to see my name up there to show that I've invested in this. So really, for me, this is just our ground. Okay, lovely.
Hi everyone, afternoon. Lovely to have you all here. Leanne. I'm first going to address Sakile. Yes, training is inevitably the most important thing. We are all passionate on our forum about training. If you have a look at the document itself, people development is a very important factor that we've looked at. There are places you can go to get training. There are CETAs that you can apply for bursaries. You can apply for scholarships. At the moment, most of the CETAs are busy rewriting codes at the moment. So new courses will be coming out, and it's very much arts focused. So if that's where you're wanting to go, and your strength lies there, look at the CETAs, go through them, see if there's any opportunities for you. Then, sir, you spoke about you as, I didn't catch it all because you spoke a bit fast for me in vernac, but I got the most of it. So what I'm saying is if you look at our document, in terms of procurement, which is one of the 5 factors, a big portion of what we are proposing in this document is that if, as Chana, my colleague, has said, a big company gets the job for a huge event, they will earn bonus points and extra points for procuring skills from smaller organizations, black-owned companies like yourselves. So it's to their advantage to make use of you, but they need to know you exist. So market yourself to them. Say, well, this is my skill, this is what I do. So you build a partnership with that organization. And then the other thing is within organizations, we've also made provision for your skills to be upskilled. So as Chair explained to all of you, once you've read the document and you understand it, I know it's complex, I know the language is complex for everyone, including us. We had to put our heads around all of this terminology too, because we are just industry people like you. We get taxed the same way you do. You know, we face the same problems on a daily basis that you do. So we can empathize with all of you, because we've been there. But go through it and you can see how you can upskill yourself and how your company will then benefit from their BEE points by you upskilling. And it's great to have a document. It's great to have this as your backup. But it's up to you to show that passion and that initiative and that drive. That comes from you. And there are many young people here, which is so exciting, because you are our future. So you are the people that are going to make this document come alive. So please take it seriously, read it, and live it. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Moderator, I just realized we didn't answer the direct questions. I know that. And it's August month now. We're talking men to men. Yeah, it's men to men now. Mklekas, we subscribe to the same challenge that you have. Actually, what you raised, it's a bigger debate in the entire sector, not just here. I mean, the chairperson made mention to it that our industry is not regulated. Yeah. But it doesn't stop there. You are complaining about the tax, which we all supposed to be paying. But the very same government that taxes you doesn't recognize you as a worker. Are you aware of that? You know? And that is a battle that we are dealing with in a different platform. And I think we're going to win it, because if there's a best opportunity to fight anything when it comes to government, it's now. When it comes to election, closer to election, yeah, they will allow anything you want. So that we're dealing with. And then I will also encourage, I think Chairperson did mention, these people come from different structures. Look at the work that you do, because I don't think there's anyone here who does something completely different from what we're all doing. And these people are not working for their companies. Yes, their companies affiliated to different organizations. If you're a music promoter here,
we can engage you if we are a conference. So you can always associate yourself. So as soon as you're done, speak to anyone so that your battles don't only remain here. And with regards to your challenge, there are organizations that we can refer you to, which will assist you in making sure that you get out of the challenge that you're always experiencing. I thought it was important that we just respond directly to them. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mpololo. There were a few areas that were not addressed by the panel. China has just dealt with one relating to Sakile on the tax issue. We, as I emphasized earlier when we started the presentation, we are an events technical production services company. And I did mention that we own our businesses, and as business owners, we are compelled by the law to comply with government regulations. And there are tax laws and regimes in our country that we cannot escape from. For as long as you operate a business, and especially if you procure services from government, that's the first thing that government wants to see, your compliance. So for those people who think that it's a burden, I operate an entity that is an NGO. We are a VAT vendor, and for every invoice that is a tax invoice, we claim back every tax that we pay. And my advice is that there is no restriction to the type of establishment or a business that you want to establish. If, for instance, as Mr. Mpololo was saying, you are in the music promotion business, you can have either a CC company, a PTY company, a cooperative, or an NGO. An NGO has regulatory regimes that are different from CC, PTY, cooperatives. They're all different. And I just want to address the tax issue so that you can see the benefit of registering your entity in a certain way. If you are PTY or CC, you are both governed by the Companies Act of 1971. Same with the NGO, same regulations govern them. But a CC is not required by the Companies Act to produce audited financials every year. Whilst a PTY and an NGO are required to do that. But the advantage of being an NGO is that once you are registered, you can apply to SARS for tax exemption. You get exempted. And that gives you a big advantage in that you can approach both private and public sector and tell them that you are an NGO, and if you receive funds, they are obviously taxed, those funds. But as I had said, if SARS has given you an exemption, you don't have to pay tax. Of course, I might be misleading when you say you don't have to pay. You actually pay tax, but you need your accountant to prepare books, to prepare returns every month, so that all the taxes that you've paid, you submit again to SARS to claim the VAT portion that you've paid. And SARS will allow you, as long as you can give proof that your invoice had a tax portion. And of course, there are regulations. Firstly, you need to establish the company that requires you, or bills you a VAT, that it's indeed a VAT registered company. You don't pay tax to anyone because they claim tax. So your invoice that you would be paying coming from a service provider must have their VAT number and your VAT number, so that SARS, when looking at your refund, can look at these two entities and see if they both comply with their regulations. So for anyone who operates a business, if you are a CC or any other entity, a cooperative, you'll feel the tax burden. But if you are an NGO, all the tax money, you will get it back. It's difficult at the time you're paying. I mean, if you look at, for instance, you pay an artist, you know how expensive these artists are. An artist will charge you 250,000 rand. You're talking about 60, 70,000 rand on tax only. That's the 250 plus the tax on top of that. It's actually more. It's about 90,000. So all that money, it's the money that you claim back. And that's the money that you keep in your kitty and sustain your business. That's one of the things you talk about, and that's my advice. Rather, let's have all our entities registered as NGO. Then you have a benefit. The disadvantage, though, is that NGOs, just like PTYs, they have directors. You are required by law to have a minimum of 3 directors. And for a PTY, at the end of the financial year, there are dividends issued to individual directors. It doesn't apply for an NGO. Directors don't get paid. They don't get a dividend because that company is not owned by those directors who are on the board of the company. The revenue and the profit that is generated from an NGO is put back into the business to sustain and also for it to attain its objective. So those are the two differences. If you can bear with that, I bet you will fly. Your company will succeed. You also advise us, Sakila, on introducing the sector code to schools. This document is over 130 pages. I took about 40 minutes to present it. I really did a short summary of it. If we were to go through each section of it, we'd spend 1.5 days going through the detail of this document. And I'm not undermining the ability of school kids to learn. You know, they learn easy, they understand concepts very easy at that time. But at fundamental phase stage, these are complex issues for kids to learn. Maybe at tertiary level, just for them to know. But whether it's going to be introduced at school or not, once you become an entity that operates in this space, that particularly wants to procure services from government, the law requires you to comply with the sector code. So those who choose to work with government and get services procured from government are compelled to comply with this document. So at least that bottleneck that you foresee by introducing it at school, we can overcome it at the level when they start to operate. There was also a question, I didn't get the gentleman's name in a cap, who spoke about the libraries, if we can we can advise them to use libraries to do his computer training for kids there. This is the space that we don't operate on. As I indicated to you, we are individuals operating in various sectors of the business. Libraries, unless if it's a private, libraries are owned by governments, various departments. And my proposal is that to go to those libraries and speak to them directly for you. I think it's a good thing that you're offering training for young people, and they have space. And I'm sure the library numbers are dwindling lately, and most libraries in our communities have ceased to operate. With the proposal, it's a way of reviving it back into our communities. That's why I say, please go back to them. There was also Makosi who spoke about what mechanism can he use for his events. And your answer lies with Mr. Mpololo. He's the president of SAMPA. SAMPA is an association that does music promotion. They do events and all of that. And they've done workshops, they've done roadshows all over the country, bringing together different music promoters, both young, upcoming, and veterans, to share their experiences and advise on how best they can leverage themselves. I advise you, Makosi, to go to Mr. Mpololo after this session. Speak to him, find out what programs they have lined up for this area so that you can be able to attend. Thanks, that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, forum members. I'm going to take another round, I think one last round of questions. But I also thought maybe let's recap, with all that's being said, let's recap and say, actually, what are the forum members saying to us? What is this document? Maybe let's go there, back there. I put the high level: ownership, management, control, skills development, supplier and enterprise development, socio-economic development. I just want to make it practical for you to say, as a business in South Africa, a big, wide owned business, I'm gonna make an example, we call it Company X. For you to get big business like a rally, the ANC rally that's going to happen, or is it December 8? December 8, that they always do. You need to submit tender documents. And for you to submit tender documents, they're going to look at your BBBEE level. And we've got level 1 to level 8. To get a level 1, you need to comply with ownership. Ownership is those voting rights. Do you have women? Do you have designated people? You need to comply. This is a requirement. If you do not have right people here, you are losing a level. You understand? It means you no longer have an added advantage, because this is a priority element. Management control, it is that employment equity that we need to do. It says, who do you have as your top people? As your senior? Who do you have as your middle? Who do you have? Do you have only black people at the junior management? Why? And now they have introduced sector codes. Skills development, which everybody speaks of. You are talking about it, gentlemen. Let me tell you what skills development does. Businesses in this sector will have to give opportunities to people in rural areas, to people from Malelane. I know just Malelane. They will have to do it, because if they don't, they are not level 1. If they don't train, they're definitely not a level 1. And then we go to supply development. Supply development then is your tenders, the quotation and whatnot. If they don't use you, they won't comply, because then they are using their counterparts that are white, which stops their level. So if they don't comply with supply development and use you as the black one with smaller equipment, and then you are taking a portion of that, they won't be level 1. Therefore, they are losing business. And then if they don't take you and make you their supplier, they won't qualify. They will never qualify. And they won't have a level 1 BBBEE certificate. Then it means their pocket is going to be affected. Then what does that mean? It means they need to qualify. And socio-economic development is not a priority element, but they need to do it because you need to achieve certain elements. So what I'm saying is that they need to tick a box. How many points do you have here? 43. Do you have all 43? No, you have 10. Therefore, you are not level 1 anymore, you are level 2. Management control, how many points do you have? 19 points. Okay, no, you don't have 19 points. You only have 5 points because your CEO is white, your manager is white, and the payroll lady is white. And the people that are running around, the driver, the people that are putting on the cables are black. Then you're not getting all the points. Then you are not winning here. Skills development, did you give people bursaries? You've got a requirement. You are giving people a bursaries in your field. You're not going to give someone to do accounting. And I put here, we can maybe do business 101 as a service provider to say, if you are owning your own business, then do give these people this training. Then you are qualifying, then you, out of 43, how many points you've got? 2. You are moving, you're not level 1, you're not level 2, you're level 3. At some point you find yourself, you are level 7. And then level 8 is non-compliant. There's no way you're going to do business in South Africa. That's the practicality of the codes. So this is your foundation to help you get that door into the economy. That's why they're saying it's an economic transformation. For you to be economically active, to make a decision. Imagine I know China plays around it. I'm a woman. I will be able to talk to women issues. We were talking about menopause the other day. And I know at my work what we did, we introduced a menopause session where we support women that are going through menopause. Because it's something that the world has not embraced, but it is our reality. And only a woman can talk about that. But imagine Bra Opa talking about menopause. We're like, what? What do you know about menopause? So what I'm saying is, what we want is to have is to have the right people having the right conversation. And the document, this one, is going to allow us to have that conversation. Because it will be a, look, we're not saying, hey, maybe. No, you need to comply. Otherwise, your pocket is affected. Hope you understand. And I'm happy to close it here. And do we have more questions? No, I think we're comfortable. We're happy. I can see the faces are saying, no, we're good. Okay. Okay. Do you want to go for another round?
Yes.
The last round. Okay. We'll take that gentleman, and then we'll take that gentleman, and we'll take another gentleman. You can see that I'm calling 3 gentlemen, no female. I've got the mic. I've got the mic. I've got the mic.
Hi, my name is Asian Mabuza. So the first one was a question, the second one was not really a question, it was just like, suggestion of some sort. The question is about the document being difficult to digest, like which Mr. China got into that. So I wanted to ask how we can make this document easy to understand and digest for us to understand what is required from us, and if we are moving forward or not, we need to understand the document first. So what is it about, and how, like, as much as it speaks to us, it must speak to us in a language that we understand it, for us to improve and for us to get better. The second, which was not a question, I picked up from things that were raised here, that I normally say you have to raise your hand every time, with everything that you want in life, you need to raise your hand. And you don't raise your hand because an opportunity exists. You raise your hand even when an opportunity doesn't exist, so that when the time comes for it to important for us not to lean more on the government as much as we have to hold them accountable. We must not depend on government, because as we are waiting for government, that means we are not doing anything with our businesses. We are not improving ourselves. We are not improving our businesses. We are not growing. So we need to start like working with the things that we can access, which is we have each other. We may not have the funding from the government, but we have each other. I'm doing something that you're not doing. How can we collaborate for us to exist? And what is it that you can do as an individual where you live, where you don't really need money? For instance, if when I started my business, I was just like a writer at home. What I did was I went to the nearest schools. I didn't need transport to go to the schools. I only had to walk. So I went to those schools and I was like, I'm gonna run a services, and my services, I'm gonna teach poetry, how to write poetry, how to analyze poetry, because these kids are doing poetry at school. They don't know how to analyze poetry. So that's what I did. And it was easy for me to say, now I am hosting a festival for all 5 schools. I don't need the schools to give me money, but since they fundraise for each and everything at school, they can fundraise. Then that's where the money to do everything came from. And that's how I started existing. That's how festivals abroad saw me. That, okay, there's someone who's doing this. I want to invite you. We want you to be part of our festival, because that's how I existed, from nothing. You can exist from nothing. You just need to see the opportunities that we have access to.
I wanted to say China, a woman.
But when you said it addressed it as a gentleman.
No, I didn't. No, I said gentleman here. There was a gentleman here who raised the... No, yes, there's the gentleman. I will never... I'll never do that.
I think the department is failing us, because you came here in a department, but if the attendance in a level, I'm not happy, because I'm leading artist, and no Pumalanga family man was being asked something. So one they are asking a question, and say, so then I'm going to explain, and then that's wrong. So next time, that department, because mangibuka lana sibancane kakhulu lana kungena 100 bantu nakhona beningabhuka indzawo lengakhona ku-accommodate 200 bantu, because angiyiboni inkangala, ngiyiboni iHetsibande. Actually even noma ngiyibona mara bancane, even here in my region I don't see in Komazi municipality, I don't see Tabachio local municipality, I don't see even Pushback Ridge local municipality. Here at Mbombela local municipality, Tabanga see 4 or 5. That's wrong. Because this information that's Kulmanga Yonamutla, Angegi benefits thine leslie like pen. Banning Banabaiting with this information. So Bengela would see next time. Umagondega Tinvolet Fananalit Department Gumele Ikulmisane. Nema artist, because this thing it's about labandu lababis, not bona botwan. Song lo pela would say, mina am worried. Because no manga kuluma la particularly ban labaitzinga le information maybe more than me. So ngiyacabanga ukuthi next time kumele into yenu manje nani nibe proud maniphumala ningakhulumi nathu abantu. Yes, into inhle noma ngabe ukhuluma nathu abantu noma abantu babakunderstandile labo bantu. It's fine, but angiboni ukuthi niyaticapha nani uma nisuka la nikhulume nebantu labancane. So sifiso seni bekubona abantu basempumalanga babaningi, because angeke nende lama road shows wenwenda manje ku each and municipalities, because uma benifuna kuyenda kubo masipala bekufuna kube niye enkangala le consider almost 50 or 10 municipalities, yabo nayo yenda khona lendo per region actual, not per municipality. So ngiyacabanga ukuthi next time sicela niyendeni lento yenu ibe formal noma beniyende yaba formal but nifailwe i-department yethu because thine bangifonela later yesterday ngo-9 I cancel my trip to Emalahleni today because I need to attend this event. Mangiswala afuna ngihambe ngeMalahleni. So you understand? Ukuthi bengifuna kwathi kusikwendekani la so I will cancel another one so ngite la but umbaba tokufonela ngo9 ebusuku bakutshela ukuthi there is something that is happening tomorrow you need to cancel ama plans wakho onke at the end of the day. So siyanicela ukuthi next time nibatshele nabo ukuthi le information nini nibanikete ekudzala ngesinblame ekugcineni but stop blame i-department yethu iyasifaila ngaso sonke isikhathi makuqhamuka abantu batoletha i-serious information to ama-artist si-end up siba net so that is why eMpumalanga bathi asinayo i-compliance because we don't have a proper information. Thank you.
Thank you. I think whilst we get another question, we also need Colin for the Department of Sports. I think, yeah.
Sanibonani. Njani? Ngisipho Thwala, artist manager and music producer. So, ngiyibona document ikhuluma nge-transformation. I've got few points. When it's come to identifying, to identify let's say audiovisual, like now, for to identify because we need to document. We need to get the point of which we need to identify who's on the audiovisual, who's a music producer, who's an artist manager. We need to start by identifying, ne? And laying us sita to identify. We can use ISAPA. Gutsi ini SAPA. Gutsi stole them artists like call them artists la registered SAPA. Then we can use SAPA. Ni the document, but that's the data. Gutsi batutsi how many artists la corner or how many bobanda benda le audiovisual. So we can use the way identifying. The next thing we need to know we comply. Like, do you have a way to make Bandu to comply? To buy banale document relevant to the ulendo. So le skill development the last part the last point is awarding. Let's say I sang 10 years in 7, but my achievements are like to get an award, a location, inspiration to the young kids. It's okay, this guy, because I work with Brendan from Idols, I work with Marisha Langobo. You understand? It makes sense to motivate the youth. Thank you.
Yeah, we done, I think.
No, I'm the last one.
Okay.
My name is Kolani Lukele from Hlazache. I own an entertainment company, Child Entertainment, and sometimes we host events and we also do production, music production. And I'm also a volunteer active, same organization with that mandate. My question is, are you guys still collecting data or still planning for the future? Because you stated that for now, you actually marked like the issues and challenges mainly. And the other thing is just a suggestion, because these days, as you said, that technology is advancing. In the panel, most of you guys are way more older. Well, so we need, I'm sorry to, maybe it sounds disrespectful. No, not all of you. Not all of you. Not all of you. Maybe, obviously, you are able to learn like us, but we need like youth, like someone who can be neutral for us. Yeah, someone who can refer information to you guys in a way that. Yeah, but they understand. Same thing as I'm suggesting. They all understand what I'm trying to say. Same thing is now. And no. One last thing. When it comes to women, sometimes when I host events, we do book women like, let me say about 7, let me say I book 7 women and then 20 males. And the attendance, I can say out of the 7, 2 women will attend, and then the others will give me reasons that are hard to understand. Yes, sometimes if yeah. Well, so we need like from women like to understand the reasons why even when we try to involve them, they don't show up. Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't understand the question.
No, I don't think it was a question. Oh, it was not your question, it was a comment that you, yeah.
For the last time.
Did you have a question? Yeah, it was a comment. It was a comment. Yeah.
Endot. On a serious note, we're sitting with feminists here. So be careful of what you said. One of them is just 2 chairs away from you. So be careful of what you're saying, because one can challenge you in your last statement. If you're saying 2 of them never pitch up at your event, what criteria did you use for them to come? What if your organizational skills were messed up? That made them not to. What if the environment was not conducive for them to come? We don't know that. We're only hearing from you. But it goes back to what I've said earlier on. We do understand the challenges that people are getting. Hence, we said in our opening remarks, the issues that you are raising might not necessarily be speaking to what we're here for. But it is a challenge that cuts across all provinces, not just here. And the sad part of it is that our mandate limits us to what the chairperson was presenting. However, in our respective structures, we have muscles of taking these things forward. And we are not government. We are not working for government. But we have access to them. We have access to the ministry. We have access to anybody that we want to, especially on issues that speaks to this. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Chairperson and Leanne, in one of the sessions, I think it was at Bloemfontein, Free State, where we took a conscious decision that as much as it is not our mandate, but we are going to consolidate almost all these concerns that are coming and forward them to the department, in particular the gentleman who opened the session here, because he's the one that represents the national government. Because we can't ignore them because they are not in our scope, but they are affecting the sector. Now, if you listen to yourselves when you are talking, most of the issues that you are raising are affecting your pockets. And if you quantify that to what the chairperson was presenting, you will notice that the most money that you could be making is based on this transformation. Because the biggest procurer in the whole country now is government. Not corporate anymore, not anyone. If you want to be paid money serious, money comes from government in all aspects. Now, if we are not tightening up that screw, the people that have been benefiting then, they will continue benefiting, which is what we're trying to address here. So I feel now that Madam Women's Month, we can look at some of these comments and add them to some of others that we've been getting, Chairperson, from all these provinces. And from there, we'll be able to come back and say, look, because at the end of this whole session, probably the next 2 months or so, we would be presenting the final report to the minister. And when that handover happens, Chairperson will be able to articulate not just the report, but also he will include some of these challenges that we've been getting from different provinces, which speaks to you. Because from where we're seated, what it means is that you guys have no access to your provincial government, you know, and to your municipalities. And that is a very sad situation. The only people that might have access to them are those who have proximity to them. You know, if you get what I mean. And you know, so we understand that. But having looked at all those problems, we believe that the industry here too can be corrected, can be reconstructed, and it will come right, as long as you and me sibambisana ngesandla, even during the Women's Month. Thank you very much.
I would like to address the age situation. Thank you for pointing how old we are to us. We didn't realize. When we did this process, please understand we didn't do it in isolation. So as much as we are all professionals in our own organizations, most of them, we work as NPOs, as Chair has pointed out. But we consulted with so many people wherever we've gone, and we've listened to the youth, and we've taken the youth's voice into account, and we've changed a lot of the documents because of what the youth have told us already. So although we might have a little more wisdom than what the younger people may have, we have definitely taken your concerns and your futures into account, because this is going to affect you guys for many years to come, when we're long and buried.
Just a quick thing, it's not only about wisdom, it's about institutional knowledge. So here, collectively, we've got some huge piles of institutional knowledge, and hopefully in passing on whatever we do, is you guys are the ones who are going to take it to the next level. So our real thing is we've done many of us, some are still younger, but many of us have done our best, and we're just looking to ensure that the industry is in the hands of all you guys who actually can make it work, because you've got huge opportunities.
No, I didn't get your remark, Chairperson. This process, Chief, look at these people. We started when it was 12 years. I was 12 years younger when this process started.
And look how is it?
So because you were not there, don't be jealous.
Also,
Chief. Don't be jealous. You were not there.
also Kolani, yes. When I'm 21. Okay, love. Being bachelor bangahambi nami.
Well, you no problem because you don't have white colleagues.
Kolani, Mr. Lukele, you intimated earlier to a situation where you invite 7 women and 20 women, but 2 of the women only will attend. Do you remember what you said? Did you try to find out why only 2 women are attending?
I was asking a question.
But you've been doing events long before today, and there's only 5 women here. Okay. I did say to you, we started in 2011, and perhaps to put this forum into proper perspective of its establishment, it's not individuals that are members of the forum. It's only associations. So within each association, there's entities that are members of the association. The event technical production sector, it's a broad sector, and the panel represent people from those different sectors. And we do not dictate to an association that it must send a representative of a gender, a specific gender, or of a specific age. We are given by associations people that they best think will be suitable to be in the forum. And that there is no youth, it's not by the design of this forum. And in fact, we looked into each of our associations and we find out that, yes, there are youth, but it's youth that are inexperienced, as Ms. Elder was explaining, that there's institutional memory here. And I think it makes sense for these associations to send their experts in the forum so that they can engage properly. We cannot allow a situation where a association brings you with no knowledge to talk to people that you need to give knowledge to. It will not make sense. And so it is not by design that we excluding the youth here. And not only have we been accused about the youth, we were in other instances told that we are not musicians. Why are we here in the forum? They want musicians to be here. This is not the forum of musicians. And that we've always tried to explain. Do you understand? Mr. Msimanga also raised concern about attendance. And Mr. Msimanga, I don't think it is because it's only in Mpumalanga that the attendance is poor. It's everywhere that we go. We don't arrange invitations. What we do as forum members, we individually send invitations to our association members. And in some provinces, there's a bigger representation of members. In others, there isn't any representation at all. So association members will be invited personally by associations, but the larger invitation is made by our government, which is, in this case, both the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture, in collaboration with the Department of DTIC. So they invite, they've got a fixed invitation on the website, and what they normally do, they liaise with each of the provinces. The HODs in those provinces are the ones that bring the people. And this morning we were told by DSEC that there's people from other regions who are 2 hours or so away that we should wait for them, will be coming around 10:30. We waited, 10:30 came and went, and the time was extended to 11. 11 also came and passed, and these people, they're still not here. So it is these departments in the provinces that are creating these challenges that we normally face. And we're dealing with them. Hopefully in future they'll be able to attend to that. And I'm sure it answers your question also, Mr. Sipotola, on criteria of the people we invite, or how should they comply for them to be invited. As I indicated, we invite from associations, but the bigger invitation comes from DSEC that sends it out to to the different stakeholders. They have a database of all the stakeholders in this sector, and they send it out to them. And I don't blame them so much, because at times they go out in time, they receive RSVPs confirming their attendance. On the day of the event, the people don't turn up. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Can I just say, how many people, what industry associations do we have in Mpumalanga? CIFSA? And what else?
Where I'm from in ML, we've got two structures, Usugaliko Arts and Culture, which is a forum that was supposed to be then guided by CIFSA, which has failed us from day one. So currently we are lost.
Yes. So if you look at the other industry associations like the International Festival and Events Association, the Exhibitions Association, maybe that's one of the things that has to be looked at locally, is to be able to say, who are the people who are specializing in exhibitions? And even if it was only one or two members who are then able to liaise with them, or with the Festival Association to liaise, or the South African Association for Conference Organizers, because the opportunities in events is huge. And one of the good things about belonging to an association is that you get those monthly or weekly things which tell you a little bit, and it inspires you. So I'm going to just say my takeaway from this event is to be able to say, hey, let's get some industry associations more involved. For those who are really involved, it would be lovely before you leave here today to put your name down and what business you do. Because if there's people who are in the festival association or in terms of music, etc., these particular people, exhibitions, can take that and say, well, let's contact you. So I'm going to put, if I may, put the challenge out to everybody to make sure that everybody leaves their details of what they actually do. And if you did belong to an association, where would you be? Because you don't have to live in Johannesburg to be part of it. As you know, technology is phenomenal. So it's a big challenge to everybody. Let us say the next time we meet that we'll all be saying, oh, I'm with the SARCI or IVA or with SAMPA or whatever. Do you agree? Yes. There's the challenge. Super.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, panel members. Thank you so much. I think maybe there's a round of applause for all the discussions we had. I must say, I think this is one of many sessions that we've done that leaves me so energetic. We've done six sessions, and I think it's one of many that we've done that's leaving me with so much energy. Thank you so much. Before we close, we have put up the email address that we referred to earlier on. You know, some people are, that ed is like problematic. And like I said, sometimes you are, like for me, I am Lucia Mukoka, but my email address is lucia.pedinyani@gmail. So to avoid not getting any communication, just make sure, even if you trigger, to make sure you have the right email address, or you send an email address so that they can send you something, so that you can engage with them. And you can use this, I mean, for most of your stuff that you need in the business, but I'm just saying, as a by the way. But for me, thank you so much, colleagues. Had such a wonderful, wonderful time with you. In closing, we've got lunch. In Sesotho, they say, "Mokete osenang nama ke so boni," meaning an event without meat is nothing. It doesn't exist.
Madam Speaker, I just raised my hand to second the lunch issue.
The lunch will be served at 14:15, so meaning at 2:15. And it will be served outside. So thank you so much. Hope today was what you thought it would be. Note the email address, have your document, take a pen, take a notepad so that you can make notes and send us the notes and read it. For me, Lucia Mukoka, thank you.